before I forget. Right, so we're live. So welcome to another edition of the weekly featured business. And our guest today is 𝗪𝗠𝗪𝗧. Right, so she's our 16th, I think, 16th or 17th. I need to check. Right, guest. Right, so we've got some usual faces here, so people know the format, so I don't need to explain how that works. And today it's all about Mandy. So before we start learning about Mandy's business, we want to know a little bit about Mandy. So who is Mandy? So in your words, Mandy, if you could just explain or just tell the audience a little bit about you personally. I mean, if you're married, if you've got children, and where you were born and where you live now.
Yes, with pleasure. So thank you very much, James, and thank you for being here to the rest of you. It's nice to speak to you all. So a little bit about me. Well, I'm Dutch originally. I have a Dutch passport, but I never lived there. That's just a bit of an intruder, I would say. I was born in Spain, in the south of Spain, and I lived there and I grew up there until I was 18. So I did all my schooling in the south of Spain. So I think I got a bit of a mix between the Dutch identity and the Spanish love of life, I would say.
So your parents, I mean, they were Dutch, or one was Dutch and one was Spanish?
Now you're opening another tin of worms. No, my mother is Dutch, and I've always spoken Dutch to her, so it is my mother tongue as well, except that we lived in Spain. And my father is Bulgarian, which I don't speak, unfortunately.
But you speak Spanish, obviously.
Yes, yeah, I did pick that up. So yeah, that's a little bit about my background. I've been here so I'm in Switzerland. Sorry, I've been here.
Whereabouts in Switzerland?
In between Geneva and Lausanne, so in the French part. And I'm actually right in the middle of the two. And I've always been in this area of Switzerland.
Okay, so you're speaking French as well?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, multilingual.
Well, when you're small and you pick up languages, it's easier. It is much easier to pick them up. But yeah, I was lucky enough to be able to learn French as well. And I originally came to Switzerland to study at the hotel school in Lausanne. And I finished that in 2006. Then I left. I thought, oh God, what a boring country. Which as a student, it does feel a little bit like that. But then I came back in 2009 and I love it now. I really, really love it.
So in Spain, you're in Barcelona? You said the south.
No,
so.
I was in the south of Spain where I lived and grew up. I was in the south of Spain near Marbella.
All right, okay.
Near Malaga. And I did move back to Spain for a few years in between finishing the hotel school and coming back to Switzerland. And then I was in Barcelona.
So why did you find it boring the first time around?
Switzerland? Well, I came from the south of Spain. And it was just two totally different worlds, I think. It's really different cultures, different way of being. I came from a place where everyone makes as much noise as possible to a place where people disturb as little as possible. And it was just two very different cultures, I think. And especially when you're young, it's great. I mean, now I'm married, I have 2 children. And in terms of family life and stability and security, the quality of education, it's fantastic. I mean, and that's why really I'm really happy here, aside from the country itself. But when you're younger.
Yeah, I guess when you're younger, and particularly coming from Spain, you could go out at 10 o'clock and still get a tapas and stay drinking.
That's when it starts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Not here when everything's shut down and you're lucky if you can get anything to eat after 10 o'clock.
And on Sundays, I mean, I spent I spent years wondering, what do people do on Sundays? Everything is closed.
Definitely don't cut the grass.
You can't make noise either. So you can't fix up your house or mow the lawn. You can't make noise. That would disturb.
Actually, I did do that on a Sunday because we'd never had a house in Switzerland. So when we bought a house, I thought, well, it's a beautiful day. I'm going to cut the grass on a Sunday. And yeah, the neighbours complained. And I thought, what are we complaining about? And he said, well, you can't make a noise on a Sunday. Anyway, but I understand that there was a lot of cultural differences. Hi, Mark.
Yeah. Hello.
Right. So anyway, so you said you're married. So did you marry a Swiss guy in the end?
Yes, I did.
All right.
I did. So I met him when I started the hotel school right at the beginning. And we did leave Switzerland together, but that's probably also one of the reasons that we came back here.
Right.
Yeah.
And he was from the same neighbor, the region?
Yes, he's from this area here. So we live in an area called Nyon, for those of you that know Switzerland, which is in between Geneva and Lausanne. And he's from this area.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
And you mentioned you have children.
Yes, I have 2 children. I have a son of 8 and a little daughter that's 6 years old.
Congratulations.
Yeah, they keep me busy too.
Yeah, I know what it's like. Mine are
Yeah.
similar ages. Right, so you're in hospitality at the beginning then. So kind of, this was your education or where you felt you wanted to go was more the hospitality, and then you had a taste of that, excuse the pun.
I think
and then you kind of switched then. Was it something there that made you switch, or how did that come about?
I think hospitality really is a passion, and I still love it. There's a lot of energy in the industry. There's a lot of movement, so many people. It's really all about the people, and that aspect I've kept throughout my career. And to be honest, when I moved to Switzerland, I sort of fell into recruitment through a friend of mine that was working at a company that said, we're looking for somebody, and one thing led to another, and then I ended up starting gathering experience in the recruitment field, and I discovered an area that I really, really liked. It wasn't necessarily a big, I didn't really mind so much if I stayed or not in hospitality, but what for me is so important is to be able to work with people. And in discovering recruitment, I also discovered a lifestyle whereby you're not working Sundays, every public holiday, nights, split shifts, etc. So yeah, that was like a bonus.
So just looking kind of at I'm just looking at your kind of LinkedIn profile now, and then seeing that you went through a number of different changes actually with the recruitment. So why was that? I mean, was it because
I didn't go through that many. I've done a lot of things and a lot of running parallel as well. So I within recruitment. I started out with a big with a big Swiss company, actually, not one of the huge international ones, but a big Swiss company. And there I stayed for quite a long time, and they were specialized in certain fields, so recruitment in HR, commercial fields, finance a lot, and a lot of interim. So I really moved through Geneva, Lausanne within different teams there. And then afterwards, I went on to executive search, which is sort of like an extension of recruitment. And after that, then I sort of started up my own company after a while. And the other things that you're seeing on the LinkedIn profile is a lot of volunteer work. I spent 4.5 years on the committee of the Dutch Business Roundtable. So that's in there as well. And I run a website called Living in Nyon as well. So they sort of like add on to the experiences, but it's not as fragmented as it actually looks.
Okay. So with the recruitment, I mean, obviously once you got a taste of that, and then you felt, because it's been kind of in the service industry and hospitality and serving people and helping people out, it must have been kind of quite a buzz like when someone's come to you because they're looking for a job, and then you've helped them find that job and you've placed them in the company and stuff like that. It must be quite a good sensation and feeling that you've not just helped the company find someone, but you've helped someone position them in the company. So was it kind of that feeling that you wanted to maintain, and that's why you stayed in it?
That was definitely a buzz, but I don't think that's what kept me very close to the field even today, because what Walter mentioned earlier, the curiosity factor. So that's very, very strong with me. And what I really started to discover is that everyone is different. Everyone has different strengths. Everyone has different weaknesses. There's no two people the same. There's no two companies the same. So it became sort of like detective work at some point of who really is the best candidate for what company. What does the company even need to start with? So there it already starts. You have to do your investigation. What kind of company are they? What kind of a culture is it? And this is the aspect that I really liked in recruitment, and then afterwards in executive search as well. It's just slightly different, but there's a lot of similarities. So
Okay.
it was the not so much placing people, but really uncovering what drives people, what makes them different to anybody else, and the same for companies.
Because I mean, you can start kind of digging deep into something like this. So placing somebody is one thing, but placing somebody, I mean, understanding why there's that real need, and do they really need a person for that role, or is it the way that they're working as a company? So then you can start exploring further. So it must be hard sometimes to kind of focus on, I'm just going to place someone because that's what I'm here to do, rather than try and find out what it is with their business and why it's not working, and do they really need somebody, or could they work in a different way?
I think you put your finger on exactly the reason why eventually just recruitment really gets a bit, I mean, it's not boring, but it gets a bit monotonous, because you can't, I mean, you can have these conversations, and I did, but it's really, that's where the interesting part is, to see what makes sense, rather than who's the right person. And that is what I do now, actually, really, this what makes sense.
So we're just going to kind of fast forward then into kind of the turning point that you thought, well, you wanted to do something that was more you, and to bring out kind of the value that you could bring in. And as you said, it wasn't just about placing people, because that become monotonous and boring in a way. You wanted to know kind of more of a holistic view, and helping the companies and everything else. So what made it, I mean, was there a trigger point that made you decide that, well, it's now time that I kind of do my own thing?
Yes, there was definitely a trigger point, and I'm smiling because I was writing about this just the other day. I think it was last week. I sort of had an aha moment where I've always loved my job, actually. But when this was about, I'd say 3 years ago or so, I realized that I was giving the best of me at work, which is normal, right? You do your best, you provide quality work, you maintain good relationships, and you do your best. And then I would come home and I'd be tired and cranky, and they would get the worst of me. And then I thought, well, where are my priorities in life? Well, my family is my priority, and my work is it's not above my family. It is actually a priority, but it's not above my family. And yet where I was giving the best of me was upside down. So this was really, I think, the turning point for me, where I thought, I don't want to continue like this. I want to give the good side of me where it needs to be. And I don't want my children to suffer and to be shooed off to bed or that kind of thing. So yeah, that was for me really the turning point. And then, and this is exactly what I help people with today. I mean, one thing is realizing that you don't want to continue like that, but then what? So yeah, that was another big questioning moment.
And in between that, I guess you had children.
No, so that I already had children when I had that realization, because it was because of the children that I was so tired and that I wasn't able to do both.
With the children, did you still full time, or you went kind of part time then and moved back to full time?
Well, I took one day off. I always worked 80% when I was at a job, and now I actually still work 100%. So I never really reduced much.
So tell us about your business then. So the name, kind of when it started, and more about what it is that you do that's kind of different.
Yeah. So I started the business with a different idea than that I'm doing today. I think the red line through it is still the same, but so my company is called 𝗬𝗢𝗨𝗥. And I specifically chose something more related to a feeling than what I actually do. So this was, of course, the internal debate that I had in my head. Do people know what I do by the name, or do I want to leave myself some margin? Luckily, I did, because I did change the concept. And what I started out was a concept of speed recruiting. Exactly for the reason that I mentioned before. I think that there's more to people than just the skills they have and what they know how to do. And there's a lot of people that are transitioning or that would like to go into a field that they haven't yet got experience in. Doesn't mean they wouldn't be any good, but it just makes such a big difference when you meet a person or when you read a CV. So I developed this concept, and I had a few events of this speed recruiting where companies would come. They would have 10-minute interviews with different people that were matched to the job. So it was quite structured, quite organized. The companies knew who they were meeting, what their experience was. The candidates knew where they were going, what position they were interviewing for, and they were motivated by them. And these were just quick 10-minute interviews to get a feeling for the person and basically for the company to see, can I see this person within my team or not? And vice versa, of course, as well, for the candidates to imagine, can I work with this person? So the concept I'm really happy with, and I really think, sort of with pain in my heart, I put it aside. But the problem of a starting up business is cash flow, I think, as everybody knows. And the concept simply required all the work to be done upfront, a lot of work, a lot of time invested, a lot of organization, and you just don't know what you're going to get out of it. And as it's quite a new concept, I had to spend a lot of time convincing people to give it a try. And some big companies actually really were on board and they were really happy with it. But it's just a lot of work on all fronts for one person. So, so that was on the one hand going on. And then sort of naturally, I was getting mandates to do some team buildings and working with some people individually on their career development. So this was just sort of trickling in on the side. And then at some point I had to take the decision, right, what do I focus on? Do I focus on the career, on the speed recruiting, or do I continue really with what's actually just started to work out automatically? And that's when I really transitioned more into career development and talent management, which is what I do today. Okay,
so tell me a bit about the types of companies or your clients. I mean, are they individuals, small companies, large, or so
on? Well, there's a pre-corona and a post-corona. Pre-corona, I was working mostly with companies. It was really 80% companies, team buildings, working with people within the company. Sometimes it's within teams, and sometimes it's key talent that they want to keep and that they want to know, how can I develop this person? Because what happens a lot is that a company will have their key people leave the company and they don't know what happened, because they've thrown a promotion at them and they've given them a few trainings. But the thing is, they're all a bit random. So then the person leaves and the company doesn't know what happened. So I supported them with that a lot. And then, of course, with Corona, with the lockdown, there was simply no teams anymore. It really wasn't a priority for them. And there I focused more on the individuals, which was always a little bit on the side as well. But what I did was I developed an online course to support people throughout these transitioning points. So pretty much the same thing.
So the kind of the size, I mean, you said you work with companies, typical, what sort of size companies would you work with?
Small to medium-sized companies, not the huge multinationals, because I like it when I have the when I have someone in front of me that can answer questions, again, the curiosity thing, and not somewhere procurement off in another country that is making all the decisions, and then I'm speaking to somebody who has to file a ton of paperwork. So yeah, it's mostly small to medium-sized companies, either Swiss or international, but with a headquarter here. Okay, and
so typically in English then that you'd work?
No, mostly in French.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
The course I've done now is in English. It's easier for me, but I was working mostly in French with the company.
Okay, you have a preference of language?
English is easier for me, but not, no, I can't say I wouldn't want to work with.
So you can prepare your material in multiple languages?
Yeah.
Okay, and your website would be accordingly in different languages as well?
Yeah, so for the online course, that's in English, so that's only in English, but for the Be Inspired, the website before that is in both languages.
All right, excellent.
Yeah.
So would you pick on a typical industry sector, or, I mean, you're not fussed in so much?
No, I'm not fussed in that sense, because typically the problems that I deal with are the same. I mean, usually if we're talking about the teams that I was dealing with, it's I mean, 2 or 3 scenarios that keep recurring. You've got the context where there's a change of management or a change of CEO. And so the culture needs a bit of a change and a bit of a revamp. And so we need to get the team on board again, or we need to understand how. So that it's the same across all sectors.
So now you found kind of post Corona.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of prior to that, I guess you relied on kind of face-to-face contact and meeting people and maybe in your geographical region, and then in Corona hit and you thought, well, I need to kind of change my model as well. So bring things online, but then bringing them online also gives you a global reach. So then you could also change kind of your target audience. That's not just local anymore. It can become very much international.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. Well, that's happening, I would say. I did really rely a lot on going to meet people, and I still do think it's a big advantage because we tend to lose the contact. We're all quite comfortable hiding behind our screens and behind our emails and sending out messages in that way. So I still really do think it's important. But clearly, when the confinement hit, I did realize that I just wasn't ready in terms of online service providing with the company. And now I would say that there's been a shift, not so much with the companies because that's still the same, but in terms of individuals with the online course, I've got people from different places. I mean, someone's in England, someone's in Ukraine, and I've only just started with it, but that has clearly changed, and it wasn't even on purpose that happened, but you just see that the way information goes out, naturally that happens, and that sort of did open my eyes as well. Oh, exactly like you said, James, I'm not really attached so much to the area anymore as I was before.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen that big change, and sometimes we're not prepared for it as well because we have to learn technology we didn't understand before. Yeah. And then, that was fun. I mean, particularly like Zoom calls. I mean, I've been kind of zoomed out now, so you become an expert in something you knew nothing about 6 months or so ago.
Yeah.
So, and kind of what works and what doesn't work, and also moving online, you're developing new skills and leveraging on new tools, and then also looking at, well, now I can reach out to a wider audience. How do I go about that? And how do I start getting into regions that I've never explored before? So it's a learning curve for yourself. And then, but you've done a great job in that. So you offer services both to individuals and to companies. I mean, tell me a bit more about kind of the services that you offer.
Yeah. So the red line, as I said, it's still there. It's still very much focused on getting the best out of yourself and really how do you develop in the right direction for you. And I always say it's focused on career development, which is true because that's my area of expertise and that's where I know how to advise people and how to support people. But it's very much about a balance in life. I mean, you are not only a professional or only a mother or only a wife. So they really do go together, and there is really this cross-pollination of energy, really. I mean, if you're worn out by your day at work and you come home and you just want to go to sleep, whereas if what you do gives you energy and you like it, you'll come home and you'll have energy to give as well. So it's not there's not a finite number of energy that you have. So what I do now is really still around that. How do you optimize your career path, and actually also how do you feel best within your life? So the online course is what I'm focusing on a lot at the moment because it's a lot of work, but I want to get it wrapped up and I want to have a really I want to have the proper finished product totally ready and to the quality level that I want it to be and that I really stand behind. And that's really geared at people who are sort of at a turning point in their lives, who are sort of questioning, where do I want to go next? I'm hearing a lot at the moment, people that are sort of contacting me because the confinement was good in a way. They've slowed down. They've realized that things can be done differently than that they didn't question before. And now that they can start going back to life as usual, more or less, they don't want to.
Yeah, so
except that,
yeah, sorry.
Sorry, yeah, except that they don't want to go back to work, but they don't know what they want to do instead.
Exactly. So what we're seeing, I mean, I went to a company for the first time kind of in 6 months. I went to a face-to-face meeting, and luckily enough, it was local. So I mean, it wasn't too far to travel, but it was a completely different feeling now. I was so used to doing that on a daily basis. When I did it for the first time in a long time, I kind of missed that interaction and that personal connection, which you can't get online. I mean, you can build up a certain reputation, but when you meet someone and you sit with them, it's something different. But I mean, talking to them, they're also saying that there's a lot of people that don't want to come back to the office. They got so used to working from home. Now that they have to go back to the office, they don't want to do it. And so you've now, it's presented HR and with a whole new set of challenges they never had before, and they don't understand necessarily how to deal with it. So also with your role now, because you've been involved in kind of the career development, you mentioned about people kind of a bit lost now and a bit disillusioned, or they've lost their job that maybe was a stable job, and yeah, unfortunately they've lost it. And then the question, or the people that don't want to go back to work. So you've had to also adapt and learn kind of to these new challenges. So how have you also kept up to date with that? And do you add something that is more you into this now, and from a personal perspective?
Do you mean towards companies?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
so yes, how did I keep up with the trend? I suppose like everyone else, reading a lot. I also carry out assessments, the Discover assessments, which is the colors one, right? The green, blue, red, and green. Yeah. Green, blue, red, and yellow rather, which is a lot of fun. And there's a lot of literature around that as well. And these assessments are really interesting because it shows you natural behavior and adapted behavior, which means that how you act when you're comfortable with your family, with your friends, or even at work, if you've been there, if you're comfortable with your colleagues, or in uncertain times. So that's always meant one thing in general. But then when Corona hit, that took on a whole different definition. And all of a sudden, the entire world was in their adapted mode. So that was quite interesting to have that knowledge in advance, and then to sort of look at it from a different point of view. So I think there was a bit of added value for companies as well. And then a lot of reading as well. I mean, that the fact that for me, what was most interesting to read up on and to find out about in order to best support the companies that I still work with, is what allows a company to come out of this Corona period successfully. Because you always have crisis. Crisis is actually normal for a company, right? It happens all the time. Every 3 years, a company will go through crisis. It's just a little bit unprecedented that everybody go through it at the same time, but crisis is crisis. So what makes a company go through crisis and come out better or worse? And it really comes down to two main factors. One is the capacity to make a decision, which is difficult because you don't have information. So you still need to be able to make a decision. And the second one is the capacity to take action. And again, the same thing, you don't know if it's right or it's wrong. You just have to put your measures in place and your checkpoints, and you have to act. Whereas most companies will really just sort of like go down and wait till the craziness passes, and that they can just sort of reemerge and keep on going as before. So that really is the distinguishing factor. And the companies that I'm still working with, as I said, I'm working a lot more with individuals now, but the ones that I still work with, we really focus on that a lot. Who do you have in your team that's able to take on these roles? And they're not the same qualities we're looking for now as we were looking for before.
Yeah, so I see with a lot of companies, they kind of are reactive, they wait for something to happen and react on it. And there's others that think, well, no, let's be more proactive and see what we can do to help ourselves and the people in the company. Exactly. So different ways of thinking. Yeah. But so when you say you work a lot more, so you prefer to work more kind of with individuals or companies, or a combination of both?
That's a question I've been asking myself a lot. I actually really love both. I really do love both. I have a tough time answering your question in a very definitive way, because I like the energy of teams. I like to see how people interact together, the different influences that the different personalities have on each other and what that creates. But I also really like working with individuals, because you can just deep dive a little bit more into what each person can do specifically and how they can develop that specific characteristic, given their strengths, given their dreams, given their reality. How does that all come together for one person? Yeah.
So how do you go about finding your clients then?
Well, the companies, it's still very much networking. It's still not been updated to the online format, I have to say. I have not yet made that step in terms of companies. And I'm lucky enough to have a relatively big network in this area because I've been operating in that field for a long time. And then for the online course and for the individuals, there I really have upped my game, I think. And I've been really a lot more conscious of my presence on social media, online. How do I promote myself? What are the different tools that I can use? How do I add value? How do I create content for people? And how do I position myself in a way that is authentic, that people know how I work and how I think? And that was quite difficult in the beginning, not to want to appeal to everybody and not to want to close any doors. At some point, I just thought, too bad, like it or not, but this is me, you know, and if you do enroll in my course, I don't want you to be surprised either. So so that was sort of a learning process for me as well. But there I really did make an active switch. And today I'm much more visibly marketing to individuals than to companies.
Okay, so tell me a bit more about your courses then. So if someone wants to come on a course, it's all online?
It's all online. It's self-paced. It's all online.
Right,
Yeah.
and it's with you. It's a combination. It can be with you, or it's pre-recorded, or how does that work?
It's totally online pre-recorded course, the base. There's 6 modules, and it really leads you through a process that, to be honest, I'm quite happy with, that goes from the self-awareness, building resilience, and then finding out what reality do you live in, because you might find out that you love doing something, but is that actually realistic? Can you make money with that? Can you live off that? So that's sort of like the internal audit, I would say. What is your resilience mindset? Are you resilient or not? And just to look in the mirror properly and see where do you stand in terms of that. And then afterwards, the second part, there's 3 more modules, 6 in total. And the last 3 are, first one's on communicating. How do you communicate in a way that you're actually understood? Okay. And not that you think you've said and everyone should understand, but they didn't. So that's actually a really big step. The next one is your network. Who surrounds you? Who's influencing you? Are they bringing you up or down? And then the last one is really just creating an action plan and getting going, taking small steps, but moving forward.
Okay. So typically, how long are these modules? If someone wants to listen.
These modules are all subdivided into 3 parts. And the way I go about it every single time is I really take a look at the theory, what's behind whatever it is we're talking about. If we're talking about purpose, or if we're talking about resilience or growth mindset, or whatever it is we're talking about, what's the theory behind it? Why is it important? Why is it useful to know about it? And then I have a so what slide in the middle of every single presentation. Say, okay, so now we know, what are we going to do with it? What does it mean for me? And I think that characterizes a little bit how I work in general. It's interesting to know what we're dealing with and to have the background, but specifically, what can I do with that information?
Okay. So I'm not going to ask you too many more questions because I want the audience now to interact. So there are some great people on this call. I mean, there are some synergies because I know some of the people maybe better than you do at the moment. But I mean, Eric, so thanks Eric also for joining. I know Eric does something very much, well, I mean, it's not similar, but I mean, there are some bits in there, maybe, I don't know if Eric's got any questions. Walter also about emotional intelligences and stuff like that. So, yeah, Mark, I don't really know too much about you yet. So I'd like to learn about you as well. But I mean, there are synergies, and there's some great people here that could probably offer advice or want to learn more about what you do. So at this point, I'm not going to ask any more questions. I'm going to, Mandy, maybe if you've got any questions for the audience that you want to ask, anything?
I would love to hear feedback and opinions and yeah, impressions from your own experience, actually. So, yeah.
Okay, so Eric, I don't know if you wanted to say anything. I know you put your thumb up there. I don't know if you've got anything to ask.
No, I'm just actually laying here listening and reflecting on what should I really ask now. So I'm coming back to you.
All right, but I think you should connect with Eric. I mean, I've seen some of the programs that he's doing, and obviously building up his social media presence as well. Yeah, Walter, as I mentioned, I don't know, Walter, if you've got anything to ask any questions? There's something around also some other skills that people have beyond kind of academical skills. There are also things, emotional intelligences and other skills that make a lot of sense in kind of helping people with the persona type of who they are.
Okay, well, at first, I give a little round of applause from Andy for what you were telling us, and it's really great to hear. And I mean, a lot of what you explained, what you told us, that resonates with me. Certainly, to a certain extent, we have a similar background. And see, I did human resources for many years, not specifically recruiting, but human resource in a wider area. I was much more focused on the education of, or on, let's say, the coaching of leaders. But I worked most of the time in a Japanese organization, and we tend to make everything ourselves. And I remember speaking to a colleague about if it depends on our financial manager, we even have to draw our stamps ourselves for the letters, you know. So I think that's one reason why I did a lot of recruiting myself over many years, and certainly developed, I would say, a sort of a signature model for my recruiting.
Okay.
On the other hand, I have nowadays, excuse me for saying that, but maybe you share my view, I have a healthy disregard to what the recruitment industry has descended to over the last 10-15 years. And I think we can exchange that in a longer talk privately.
I think we also have to talk about.
So what I want to point I would like to touch on is you mentioned tests, and my experience with tests, I take tests with a pinch of salt always, especially when it's about personality. My personal definition would go, I would like to know about the deep ingrained traits and about what you say, the adaptive ones. So the deep ingrained are probably the ones that are most difficult to change. And the other ones, the adapted, are the more easier ones to change. So how would you explain the test that you do? Do you put people in the box?
Totally. No, I'm kidding.
Okay.
No, I see where you're going with your question, and I really agree with you. You said I sort of have a disregard for, not disregard, sort of a not convinced about tests, and this I agree with, actually. I don't think, much like a CV, a person is not a piece of paper, and a test is not the definition of who a person is. But what it does do, and why I find it extremely interesting, is that it can open up the discussion in a very neutral way. You can agree with the test, you don't agree with it, but why? What is it that's making you react? What's coming out of it? What do you disagree with? Why maybe did the test result come out that way? And so I think that you can approach these discussions from a totally different angle than you would do if you would just sit down and have a discussion with a person. Because who are you at the end of the day to tell someone how they are or what you perceive? It's very objective. Whereas one of these tests, it's really, you just put answers in a computer, nobody interferes with anything, the computer spits out an answer. So it spits out an answer based on what you have put in. And this is where you can start the discussion from a totally different angle than you would if you didn't have it. So that's what I like about it, and that's why I use it. And I think within Teams, it's great because it has sort of a play element to it, right? You can play around with the colors, you can see who fits where, how does it fit together, how does it work together, who is opposite, how can you leverage those differences? So I think in that sense, it's really a great tool.
Okay.
And how does the assessment in itself work? I'll just quickly answer that question because it's very interesting. There's different elements. So you have behavior, which is just something you do. For example, a woman can tie up her hair in a ponytail, and one does it because she thinks it's practical, the other one didn't have time to brush her hair that morning, and the third one thinks it looks prettier. The same behaviors for three totally different motivations. And so that's the second aspect that's actually looked at within these assessments, is why do you do the things you do? So this is really interesting to look at that second layer, so that you can also understand, if you know why you're doing things, you also know how are you going to stay motivated in the long run, how are you going to keep people within the company, how are you going to keep talent motivated in your company, and they don't have to go outside of the company to look for new challenges, for example. Or if you're doing it with an individual, how are they going to stay motivated in the long run, which we don't always know about ourselves either.
Okay, we don't want to get into all the detail about the program. So, I mean, Mandy, you do offer a complimentary call.
Yes,
so,
I do.
So anyone that would like to obviously speak with Mandy afterwards, or know someone that would benefit from that, then they can reach out. And Joost, thank you also for joining a little bit late.
Very late, excuse me.
Yeah.
Very late, and I apologize to all attendees.
No problem. So next time, yeah, I'll prompt you and send you a reminder, all right, so you can be on early. But nevertheless, this is recorded, so you can catch up on the recording. And Joost also would like to hear your story on a future episode. So
yes, first we have a chat together, and then you can talk me through the whole procedure, and then I will attend.
All right, excellent. So yeah, question time. So we just got a few more questions, and then we're going to ask Mandy about how we can reach out to her about her program and stuff like that. So Eric, I see you have a question. So away you go.
Hey, okay, being in very similar field, I understand. I would love to know, Mandy, awesome things that you're doing. And are you doing all this alone?
Yeah. In terms of what I'm doing, I maybe be a little bit more specific, because I answered a lot already and I don't know exactly what it is you're interested in. In terms of, am I doing it alone? Yes and no. So we're actually two in the company. I have one person working with me, and then I work a lot with other people, with other entrepreneurs, with other companies as well, to set up programs. Sometimes we do workshops together. So yeah.
Okay, and because I'm asking this, you know, see, I think there's a lot going on right now that people are doing things by themselves and trying to go through. And I just wanted to kind of understand a little bit of what is it I or anyone in this call, for instance, what could we help you with?
Yeah.
Now you're asking my questions now, you see. Well, nevertheless, that's a great question.
Yeah, so yeah, great question. Thank you very much, Eric. I really believe that it is so, as I think everyone here, especially in Endless, you need to help each other out, and it's really together that you grow. What could you help me with? Well, to be honest, I don't think that, for example, the online course that I have is necessarily for most people here, but at the same time, I can always benefit from visibility, a little share or a little like or a little just to help promote, and I'm always more than ready to do that as well for other people. Just tell me what you want me to forward. For the online course, I actually have an affiliate program, because I also really do believe that if one person grows, more people grow. So I work with some people that are affiliates, and if they have people that sign up with me, either for the career roadmap, I'll send you the link to my website later, either for the career roadmap or for the online course. I happily give them a percentage for that. And yeah, I think aside from that, then that's like really purely just business growth. But I always do think as well that synergies are really interesting. So for example, for the course, I have a few bonus parts where I work together with others. So that gives them exposure as well, and that gives the people extra content that are following the course. So I'm always interested to hear about collaborations, where they make sense and where they're possible. I think it's always good to support each other in that way too.
That is excellent, because what we also do, I mean, it's about creating visibility. So 𝗏𝗏𝗏 is a great place for doing that. It's a great place for having kind of these featured businesses every week, because we get to know someone that we never knew before. And in some cases, they've actually partnered up together or become clients or just friends at the end of it. So, Paul, are you going? Oh, you just acknowledging. All right, okay, right. Yeah, I mean, it's like everyone on this call I never knew before. So, all right, Mandy, I met you at some events in Geneva, but I mean, from that, it's kind of nurtured into something else. So, yeah, we also offer the pitching event. So, Mandy, if you ever wanted to pitch, you definitely get visibility on that. So, I mean, that's once a month, and it's a great thing as well, because you definitely get noticed, and it also enhances and helps you. Eric did it. Eric was a pitcher. So it's typically the same people. So we're here to kind of help each other out. So we might not always have the answer. So you could always decide that you want to do something and test it with us. So you could just say, look, yeah, I want to test out a new service. Can I just have like 10 or so volunteers? I want to come on and just have a look at the program, see if it resonates or makes any sense. And then we'll give honest feedback. And then you kind of can achieve things like that. So, but you have to kind of drive that yourself. We're not here to try and, I can't answer everybody's questions. I can help facilitate or help with ideas, but I'm not going to necessarily be the one that does it for you. So, I mean, it's like with anyone, you have to come forward and be creative, and then things happen.
Which makes a big bridge right there, James, because I was actually thinking, you know, I would love to use that little moment to throw Mandy a little bit of a challenge.
Okay.
Since
I
we're
like
on the
challenges.
call.
Go for it.
Because I asked, what do you want, what can we help you with? And you say, okay, well, you can help us share the link. That's nice, but I would say that, but James was just referring to, I would be even more motivated for that. It's like, but what I heard you saying things that I'm not really sure who am I supposed to be focusing on, or if I really should do that. But now you have an opportunity with, say, 10 people here. Could we help you with just some feedback right now on what would you actually like help with?
That's really on the spot now.
It's Friday.
Feedback on, well, sure, of course. I would like feedback on is the message that I'm sending out clear? Is it coherent? Does it make sense? Am I talking rubbish? I would love to hear your opinion on that.
So now you don't talk rubbish. Yeah, so that's good.
Thank you.
Absolutely agree. Absolutely agree.
Yeah.
Maybe Eric tried to say, if I can add on Eric, what's the first thing you want to achieve tomorrow?
It's a good add-on, just.
Yes, that's a great question. So I really do, at the beginning of this discussion, I was saying how I really went through this process of, okay, this is not what I want, what do I want instead? And I'm not only that, but I mean, there's lots of points in your life where you sort of question yourself, and it's not easy to find answers. It's not easy to, when you find them, to put them into action. And I think that now I've really found a way that it works, that makes sense, a very practical approach. So if I can help as many people as possible achieve that, I hear so many people frustrated around me. I don't know what I want. I'm losing my talents. They're going to waste. I can do more, but I'm not doing anything with it. If I could help people get over that frustration.
Can I be a bit mean?
Yes, with pleasure.
What want to achieve tomorrow?
Help
that was the question.
Figure out their lives. Help them.
Yeah, but I think what Jules is referring to is like, what could we help you with, or what would you looking for so that you can help as many as possible? What could
like a specific action?
It's interesting. Like I'm being put on the spot a little bit, but I'm going to come back to what I answered the first time around. Help me gain visibility.
And what would help?
I don't know exactly what point I've missed along the way.
I feel
that's why you're on this session, visibility impact.
Because I was late. I don't want to get too much in front, but what did you do to get visibility already?
I feel like I've done quite a lot actually. I have various different marketing campaigns out. I put videos out there almost once or twice a week. I do a lot of events. I do a lot of pitching. I promote quite a lot. I very actively network. I volunteer in different associations that are complementary to what I do in order to be able to give back and not just be only selling things.
So the 10 of us that are here, we can do nothing for you.
No, that's not at all the case. You can help me gain more visibility.
Okay, let me step in here. Let me step in here. I throw how do you call it, a swimming ring? Yeah?
A lifeline, yes, please.
A lifeline. So I picked up you have an online course on the go. It's running, and it's apparently it's going successful. Do you have a new course in the planning?
The online course has only just started. It started,
Okay.
I launched it about a month and a half ago. I have students. I can't say it's successful. It needs to be much bigger. It really needs to grow. And that's what I'm doing at the moment. I'm relaunching it. I've got a webinar coming up on the 1st of October, and it is nowhere near as big as I would want it to be.
I mean, we are here sitting in this space, and we are not hiding behind the screen. I think everybody is very, very active. And the thing is, I have even my compassionate dog sitting behind me, and he's listening in. And the point is, I think we are all individuals here, but we have certainly some interests in common. You know, James is visibility, James. You have your skills. I think everybody here has some skills. But, you know, if we pool that together, in a sort of, you know, I'm a musician. I like music. And in music, you have the concept of a jam session. And in the jam session, you bring people together like, I don't know what, Andrea Bocelli with Mick Jagger and other people.
Yes.
And the Boston Symphony Orchestra. And then you do a recording and you market that recording. That will give value to people and give 3 or 4 people involved in the project more visibility. How about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I really agree with you there. And I think, as I said before, I think it's great to have collaborations and to work together and to support each other.
Yeah.
And to give you like a practical, very practical, I just did a little check here on 𝗬𝗏 and on LinkedIn to see, okay, so what are you talking about in that online course? And I see no talking about the online course, except for there's this free webinar that's coming up about unlock your potential, right? But you asked me, or you asked us for, okay, free, help me increase the visibility. And then I would simply say, as a practical advice from my side is start speaking about it more.
Sorry, so now you're just looking at LinkedIn, and we've got the webinar there, and I've got the online course.
Yeah, I was looking at LinkedIn and I was looking at 𝗬𝗏, and I was just thinking,
right.
how will I know? You know, how will I know that you are offering this online course, right?
Sorry, so you're looking at 𝗬𝗏, and you're not looking at LinkedIn now, right?
I was looking at both.
Okay, because on LinkedIn it's there. There at the top you have both the online, you have the website for the online course and for the webinar. They're right at the top.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, and what I meant is like when I am looking at like, and now I consider this, I even know that you offer this, and I say browse into your LinkedIn or I go into your 𝗬𝗏, and it's not clear for me when I go there that, hey, I am offering an online course starting on or is open on, and this is how you get there or whatsoever. Like, I am missing that clarity on that, hey, Mandy Brunzell, she's offering an amazing online course, and it's so clear that I don't need to look for it. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's what I would leave as a practical tip, to be really proud of it and get it out there and just say it to people and really like, this is what you're offering.
So you mean on the part where I have the link to the online course, just to write, it's an online course?
Yeah, but right now there's like a link, and there's like there's a photo, right? There's a link, and there's this photo of, I believe it's you there. But it's for me, like, where does it say that this is an online course?
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Anyway, I think we could take this discussion offline. We're kind of gone over the time already. So yeah, there's many things that we can all help each other out with, and it's very difficult. We aren't, although we might be the experts in our field, it doesn't mean we're the experts at everything. So that's why we need a little bit of help from our friends. Excuse the song and the pun there, but I mean, we do have to help one another. I want to help create visibility. So I mean, I do this featured business, so you gain visibility. So this alone isn't enough. I mean, you need other things to do that as well. You can leverage on LinkedIn, but then what do you do on LinkedIn? I'm actually a LinkedIn guru, and I can show you many, many ways to do that as well without having to spam people. But this other social media, it depends on who your clients are and where they're going to hang out. So there's many, many things that we can do, and then collective thoughts and just kind of brainstorming, because what might work for me doesn't mean it's going to work for you. Or if we all come with ideas, so that is maybe a takeaway, that we should try and just organize something that, how can we help each other? What are my biggest problems, right? And then what's Mandy's biggest problems? What's Pete's and Eric's and so on? And then what can we do together that we can help one another? It's a kind of a mastermind group, which we are helping one another. And then we'll come up with lots of ideas. We'll just be brainstorming, and then we can try things out. So maybe that is a takeaway, that we could organize and facilitate something like that. But let's kind of stop that there now. I mean, Mandy, it was fantastic to have you on here. I love what you do. There's definitely a need for that, because there's a lot of people in this transitional period that they don't want to return back to work, or they've lost their job, or they've now become disillusioned with what they should be doing. And
Yes.
they're reaching out for help, and you are definitely someone that can help them. Everybody's going to have a different methodology and a different way of doing it. There's neither one right or wrong way. It's what works for you and your clients.
Exactly.
So, sorry, Ross, did you have something to say?
No, I totally agree. And the gentleman that left, Walter, he put something smart out. It is great to work together sometimes, because then you share each other audience. And I have a lot of followers here, and then we got in a different region or Paul, so we can think of that through a little, you know? It would be great to be creative, what the platform can do for us.
Exactly. I absolutely agree. And I mean, 𝗏𝗏𝗏 is something that's evolving all the time, but it also depends on the people that, if you put into it, you get more out of it. So it's not just about my one thing I do on a Friday, or the pitching thing. It's about a combination of what we can all do together. And yeah, Mandy, I'm very interested in following you and seeing how you get on. If you've got any kind of questions that you want to have a one-to-one with, then reach out, because I honestly want to also help you promote your business to a wider audience. And I have some ideas now, listen to what you do, that I can definitely help you with that. So let's have a separate call on that. But I like to thank the audience once again for the ones that dropped off. I mean, kind of loyal ones that stick with us every Friday. For the new ones that come on, then you're more than welcome every Friday. And if you haven't been a guest and you'd like to be a guest, then you're more than welcome. And yeah, Mandy, if you can maybe share some links so people can follow up and connect to you. And if they want to take a conversation further, then they know how to reach you.
Shall I post the links in 𝗏𝗏𝗏?
Yeah, in 𝗏𝗏𝗏, not in here, because
yeah, exactly.
This will be lost. Whereas 𝗏𝗏𝗏, put it on
Yes.
under the event, and then And I also, for being a guest speaker, you'll get my badge. I'm going to give you a badge. And yeah, that's a little thank you for being a guest speaker.
𝗬𝗢𝗨𝗥.
Yeah, again, you can, yeah, ask people on here for some honest feedback. I mean, we can be harsh at times, but honest. And that's what you want, because to develop a business, it's not just about being nice to someone for the sake of being nice. You have to be real, because it is a challenge out there and it's not easy. And therefore, to give good advice, even though it could be seen as harsh at times, is a way to actually to help you create and win new clients. And that's what we're here to do. So,
can I add something?
Yes?
Was I too harsh?
No. No, you for me, no, you weren't too harsh, Joost. I think it was very interesting. I'll be very curious to watch the replay, James, because it was, I feel like there was something that I wasn't able to answer, and I'm wondering why exactly. So I would love to watch the replay, but it's always actually good to be pushed out of your comfort zone like that, because when you realize there's something you're missing, you also realize, right, I need to work on that. So it's, I'm happy. Thank you, Joost. And Eric.
Pleasure.
And everyone, actually.
Yeah, Jos, you can speak Dutch with Mandy.
Yeah.
Oh,
My pleasure.
okay. Well, Dutch or English is all good to me.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks, Eric, as well. Thanks, everyone that's been on here. As I said, I mean, I never knew Pete until a few months ago, and we do a lot of things together now, only from the fact of actually 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗧, but we go beyond like just what we do here, and we do things in other places as well. So as I'm saying, you have to look at where your clients are likely to be, because they're not just going to be in one place. So yeah, so thank you very much once again. Have a great weekend. Hopefully see you all next Friday for our next featured guest, which I need to look up to see who it is.
Mystery guest.
Mystery guest. Mandy, thanks as always. It's always a pleasure to speak with you. And there's a pity it's not in person this time, because it's great to see how bubbly and how real you are in person. And yeah, I wish you success, and also let's catch up as well, because I've got some ideas that might help.
Always love to hear ideas. Thank you very much, everybody.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank
Best
you.
of luck. Talk
Thank
soon.
you.
Have a great day.
I'll stay on if you want.
Oh yes, Pete, stay on then, because I just need to catch
James.
up with you. So if you can all drop off, I'll stop the recording as well.